Hey guys, so I'm excited to start this halter training journey. We have a couple of yearling fillies in here for halter training. They've been here for a couple of days settling in. And this is the pen that we always drop all of our horses that are not halter trained into, because we can back up to it with a trailer and unload them in here. And then there's only a couple of gates that we got to go through, and we can herd them over in the round pen and start our liberty work before they're able to be led. So I'm on a saddle horse to push these around to establish the first lesson. So I just want to show you guys the very first lesson that I would do. It seems very simple and maybe not even effective when you watch it, but when you understand it, it's very effective. So the first release is going to be when I build my taps. It's right when they kind of jump out of there. So I'm building them taps up until they both kind of grab a gear and jump. And then I stop right there and release for that. I find that's one of the tough things to do. A lot of times people just pick a direction and they want to just keep chasing them around there until they face up to them, or, along the way they, push on them harder for cutting corners and things like that. And I've even done that myself for a while back when I was taught to do that, and didn't really make sense to me then when I was doing it. But how I've come to the point in my life where I'm at today, and understanding how to break down the lesson as much as I have, is just understanding more about horse psychology, understanding the pecking order and how they think, understanding their flight and their fight instinct, and that desire to do the opposite when you're starting to try to control them. And that's all part of a survival instinct. The pecking order all goes hand in hand with survival. So there was the first time that they kind of accepted that movement. So I did reward that head down. And so movement is the first lesson that I'm working on. They got to move. I released. That was the first release, was for movement. And then the first restart after I released was for them trying to go back to the right. It's their natural instinct to do the opposite. So as soon as they know I'm trying to go to the left, and your horse will be the same, as soon as they know you're trying to go to the left, they're going to go to the right. And that happens until the pecking order has been established. Once the pecking order has been established, when you ask them to go to the left, the only other reason they would not go to the left is their instinct to conserve energy, right? Their instinct to conserve energy, it says, when I go to the left, you're going to make me lope for 35 circles. I'm going to try to go to the right to get out of it. And it had nothing to do with the pecking order, because I've gone through this journey when I knew my horse seen me as higher in the pecking order, because they would respond early to my pushes, and they would walk behind me. Like any test I give them, they passed with flying colors. So that I knew they seen me as the leader in the pecking order, but they were still challenging my command. And then it dawned on me why they were challenging my command, because they would only challenge the commands that were using a lot of energy. So when I tried to lope or continue to lope, or do a sliding stop down the road or a roll back, and those kind of high energy exercises, I started to see that. So it sent me down the road of establishing the pecking order first, and then use motivation so that I'm working on their instinct to conserve energy. So that created the endgame to every lesson. So as soon as they do a lesson or a maneuver perfectly, we're done. We're going to move on. And I do that long enough that they really get the idea that if they want the end game, they got to do it right. Once I got that down, then I can ask them to do it more than once, right? Because I'm going to need more than one sliding stop in a pattern. So they learn that each stop, it just gets better and better. So the first stop, if I don't quit on them, they do another one it's as good or better. Then they'll do another one a little faster, and it's even as good or better. So that really cleared things up for me. So once I realized how to motivate them, was first of all, I had to have them in the right position in the pecking order. And second, I had to show them that if they wanted to stop, they had to do the lesson clearly. So then I started calling that the end game. Once I had an end game in place, then I could, all I've done for my whole life, and I'm still doing it today, is look for easier step, like breaking down the harder steps into smaller pieces. And, you know, that's what's made it easy to teach people, you know, to be honest with you, is just breaking it down into smaller pieces. But as you guys know, the hardest thing to teach, to learn when you're new to a horse, is that it takes seven steps to communicate. It takes 7 things to have that clear communication. And once you learn them 7 steps, you can have a really cool ongoing conversation, but it can be a little frustrating learning those 7 steps. But it's time well spent, I will say that. So I'm just continuing on. They're just about to get it. You can see they had a bit of a rest up on the top, your far left of that of your screen. Up there's the sweet spot. That's where they've been getting all the releases. So you can see that they're kind of settling in there. And I would let them stop here, but I'm trying to get them to stop up where it's easy for the camera to get that position. Anytime you're filming a lesson, that camera comes into play for you there. Makes it a tad bit interesting. So yeah, I'm just waiting for that moment in time, and see the sorrow turned and went the wrong way, so I had to resend them again. And it's just being patient and consistent. There we go. So they've kind of settled right there. I'm just going to let them settle, because they haven't, as long as I can get them to stay, and they've went longer than they have done in the past, I just let them settle. And then I want to finish with just threatening to send them, and hopefully I can get them to drop their heads down without moving their feet. So if they drop their head down and don't move their feet and I quit, that shows them that was all they had to do, is put their head down. So they start realizing if they just surrendered in the pecking order, then I'm not going to push them anymore. And that's the conversation I want to have, because it helps them down the road. There's one. There's the other one. So that's the end of that lesson. So I switch and go to the other side. So when I start working on this side, sending them to the right, you will see what I'm talking about, you know, for them trying to go back to the left. Like they challenged me going to the left, but now that I'm sending them to the right, they try to go back to the left. And it's just it's that same instinct that I talked about, it to flight, run away from the command, lean on the pressure. They can't really do either one of them. So do the opposite is what they really try when they're in these small pens. If I had these fillies out in a big wide open field, they wouldn't try to do the opposite so much. They just try to run away because they can. As soon as you put them in a smaller pen and they can't really run away, if they feel like they can run away from you and get further away from you and get out of control, they'll do it. But as soon as they realize they can't, then they try to do, you know, the next evasion that comes to mind. And it's important to understand those evasions so that you can address them correctly, right? So if a horse is running away, it's because he feels like I'm rushy, and I've made him kind of rushy, and he has success by running away. If he is in fight mode and I'm trying to put pressure on him that he's able to fight through, that restraint pressure, then he's going to be in the flight mode and fight mode more, right? He's going to try to fight through the pressure. So in this case, I don't have any of those things. I don't have any pressure, any connection pressure, any restraint pressure for him to challenge. All I have is direction, and my pressure is just angle that I'm walking and the taps, which they don't understand, but it is enough to get them to respect the angle that I'm pushing and that I'm walking. So I just keep maintaining the same direction. It'll happen a little quicker this side, and they start learning patterns because I'm consistent with what I'm doing. And it's all key in having them understand how I roll, how I'm going to have a conversation with them, because it's going to be the same way I'm having a conversation today is going to be the same on the 1,000th day or the 200th day, right? It don't change. It's always going to be ask them to move, let them present to me whether they see me as the leader in the pecking order or not. Once they see me as leader in the pecking order, I don't have to put more pressure to get them to try to do the right thing. I just need to keep them moving, keep their feet moving, and that decision will come. And I've learned throughout my life that it's better to, I call it slow cooking them. It's better to have them move slow and long and get the answer than it is to speed them up to get the answer, because I've done both. And I find when I speed them up to get the answer, it's kind of, the decision was rushed a bit, and I find I gotta end up going slow way anyway. So I found it, if going slower is faster in today's lesson, the way I do it today. So you can see they figured it out to go to the right, and I just keep working on them a little bit more here. I end up getting their head down that direction too, and then I'm now off my horse and I'm going to start working on the approach. And the important part of the approach is to teach these fillies that when I start taking a step to them, I'm only going to take one step at a time and then back away. And what that's going to do is teach them when I get closer to them, because I'm far enough away from them that I'm not a threat. But when I get closer to them, if I haven't taught them that I'm going to back away enough times to present that pattern to them, then when I get up close to them, all I'm doing is sneaking, right? And as soon as I start sneaking and try to get closer, I present myself as a predator by doing that. But if I will stop and back away out here early, I'm starting to create a pattern of stopping my feet and backing away. I learned to try to corner a horse to start with, and I do not want to catch a horse like that. Because these first two lessons that I've been working on with these horses, one is to establish the pecking order in a direction. It's what I just did by sending them left and right. And the second one is build confidence in them and teach them how to be caught. Teach them how to be approached. So if they're afraid of me, by backing away from them a couple of times in the future, I instantly turn it around so that I can realize and collect the data on what they're doing. And if my horse, if I haven't caught these horses, say 6 months from now, I haven't caught them, and I go 6 months from now to catch them, and I go to walk up to them, and I see them lift their head up and start to walk away from me. If I just stop right there and back away, and it was a confidence issue why they walked away, I will instantly change their mind. If it's a pecking order induced decision why they walk away, because there's only going to be two reasons. They either don't have enough confidence in me, or it's a pecking order induced decision. They don't want to go to work, they don't want me catching them, they don't want me touching them. So this first day I've taught them the two things I'm going to use to catch you for the rest of your life. So if I approach them and they go to walk away, and if I stop and back away and I go up to them and they still don't let me catch them, then I realize it's a pecking order issue. Then I just adjust my beam behind them and start sending them till they drop their head, then readjust and start approaching them. And just like that, I've taught them the remedy and the fix for either of the reasons that they won't let me catch them. And I find a lot of horses have been trapped and caught for years, and it takes a long time to do all of them bad experiences, but this first day, by taking my time and only teaching these 2 lessons, I've set myself up for huge success in the future. And you'll see these horses have, haven't been touched, but you will see really quickly how, only takes a couple of sessions and I'm walking right up to them and catching them with a halter. And that's pretty dang cool. You can see by backing away, it even start to draw the gorilla filly in, and then the sorrel filly is going to come as well. Now the sorrel filly comes. And you can just watch the confidence build there. Like I find people that take, I never was one of those, but I know lots of people who get a wild horse, and they will take 6 months to a year to build their confidence and slowly hand feed them and give them treats and not do anything to rattle their cage or rock the boat. And man, oh man, you got a long way to go, because those horses always, because I end up getting those horses, a lot of them in training, and they said that they believe the horse has a lot of potential because they come so far from where they were, and that long distance that they came took like 6 months to 2 years to achieve that much success. And all you really taught them was that you are not going to add any pressure. You're going to stay really low and you're not going to hurt them. What happens is, as soon as you add pressure, which is going to happen when you start trying to ride them, control them, take them away from the barn, take them away from their buddy, when you start adding those kind of pressure situations and you haven't taught them how to handle pressure, now you're going to find yourself in a bit of a pickle there, because the horse can handle pressure, but he's never handled it from you. So you need to teach him how to kind of handle some pressure, him or her. And that's what I've done with these fillies in the beginning when I was sending them, because I'm never gonna have put any pressure on them when I'm approaching them and catching them. It's only when I see that they don't believe in me in the pecking order and I start sending them, that's when I'm going to add the pressure. And it's the same type of pressure that an alpha horse would add, and it's in small increments. It jumps up a little bit at a time as needed. So I'm teaching them how to handle pressure, and they're comfortable with it. So yeah, this is pretty much the end of this lesson. I just get to the point that I can get up to them, then I just turn my back and ignore them, and you'll see on tomorrow's lesson how powerful that was today. So hope you guys enjoyed it, and I'll see you on day 2.